Welcome back to Soundwell Guitar. Today's lesson is going to be learning to play bass notes and reading them using ledger lines. Okay, so we're continuing in our lessons on reading notes and using a finger picking technique. A few lessons back we called it the apoiando stroke or the rest stroke. If you remember, that involved plucking the string with your finger, in this case with the index and middle, and our finger goes into the next string. Today we're going to be learning to read notes that use the thumb. These are oftentimes referred to as our bass notes. Our thumb is actually going to be in charge of playing the big string, string 6, and then string 5 and string 4. And remember in our previous lesson when we did the apoiando stroke using the thumb, or the rest stroke, we plucked the note pushing our thumb downward and our thumb then landing directly into the next string, producing a little bit of a louder tone than if we just plucked it with our thumb going away from the strings. Better sound. But let's get into the reading aspect of it. I mentioned earlier that we're going to learn to read them using ledger lines. Ledger lines are a way of writing some of the lower or higher notes, where that is notes that are in the higher or lower register, because our staff has the 5 lines and the 4 spaces, but sound can be much higher and much lower than that. And the guitar is an instrument that actually has a pretty wide range from the low end, all the way to the high end. And to convey these on paper, it's just much easier to read if we have the 5 lines and 4 spaces system, and that if we need to get higher or lower, we just add additional lines. These are what are known as the ledger lines. So we're going to learn to read our first bass note, which is the E. It's our big string. We just pluck that without fretting any notes. And in order to achieve on paper that low tone, that's pretty low, we're going to have to add 3 ledger lines underneath our staff. And it goes even lower than that. It's below that 3rd ledger line. And that's what that note looks like on paper. Very low. The guitar's got a very broad range, almost as wide as the piano. Okay, our next note we're going to do is the 5th string open. That is, I'm not going to fret anything. I'm just going to pluck it with the thumb. 5th string. That one is known as A. Also very recognizable with its own ledger line. It's on a ledger line, and it's on the 2nd one beneath the staff. A. All right, now our 3rd note for today's lesson is D. No ledger line required. You see, that's just sitting underneath the staff, so it's a little bit lower than our range that the 5 lines give us. We don't need to add a ledger line for that. We just put it right beneath it. So let's get started practicing playing these. We'll start with this basic exercise that I've written out. We're just going to learn to read these 3 notes to start. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty basic, but it's really important to get these down so you don't move on to like more advanced pieces when you're reading. If you're not real comfortable with reading these notes, you're only just going to slow yourself down and make the whole process of learning a tune a burden if you're not comfortable reading the notes. So simple exercises like this are very beneficial to sit on them for a while to make sure that you're really comfortable reading them. Really have them down before you try to do anything too fancy. Okay, next exercise, fairly simple. Mixing it up just a little bit more this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this next exercise is pretty much on the same level as the last one, just giving you a chance to read these notes in different orders, different patterns. Just makes you better overall, being able to recognize them when you see them and counting them. Notice that too as I'm playing through these, I am counting them. Just follow the red arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our final exercise now has our new notes, E, A, and D, written on the ledger lines, but I've incorporated some of the higher notes that we learned to play and read in previous lessons. Why this exercise I feel is really important once you're comfortable reading these new notes is because we're actually using these notes as true bass notes in this case. You'll notice that the higher notes are going to act as a melody, but then our lower notes create this low end on our tune, and giving it a lot more dimension, a lot more color, really. It also should be pointed out that when the bass notes are played, that like you'll take the first note in this exercise as E, and I wrote it as a quarter note. And we can treat it as such, but it doesn't mean that we have to mute the note once beat 2 arrives. Just let it ring out. That bass ringing out underneath our melody will actually give it a lot of dimension, almost like music in 2 lines but written on 1 staff. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope you found this lesson to be beneficial. I hope all those that are watching are benefiting from these lessons and progressing. We're going to continue to get more advanced with each lesson, so stick around.